Hi there, students. Meanwhile. I thought I had a video on this word meanwhile, but I don't, so here it is. Meanwhile can be either an adverb or a noun. I think it's much more common as an adverb. As an adverb, it means during the same time as something else is happening. At the same time, but somewhere else. I will cook the lunch. Would you lay the table meanwhile? I was washing the dishes. Meanwhile, John was drying them and putting them away. Okay, so two things happening at the same time. A is happening, meanwhile B is happening. Now, with meanwhile, the usage or where you put it is important. So let's see. A was happening, comma or a full stop. Meanwhile, B was happening. Or A was happening and B was happening meanwhile. So one phrase, a comma or a full stop, meanwhile something else was happening, or A was happening and B was happening meanwhile at the end. You can use it in other places, but that's the easiest. I was looking for my friend. Meanwhile, he was looking for me. I was looking for my friend and he was looking for me meanwhile. Now, as a noun, meanwhile means the time in between two events. Okay, so maybe nothing is happening, but we're waiting for between the end of one event and the beginning of the next. In the interim, in the meanwhile, in the meantime. Okay, it's this phrase, in the meanwhile, in the interim, in the meantime. These are common phrases. So his car will be in the garage for a couple of days. In the meanwhile, he's going to use his bike. In the interim, he's going to use his bike. So between taking his car and picking it up again. Okay. You can also use meanwhile to mean on the other hand. This one is expensive. Meanwhile, that one is cheap. This car is fast. Meanwhile, that one has a good fuel economy. Okay, so one thing, but on the other hand, that. So you could use it as a linker of contrast as well. Okay, so, meanwhile, as an adverb, during the intervening period between 2 points in time, or at the same time. Meanwhile, life goes on. Yeah? And also we can use meanwhile to mean on the other hand. He's a good teacher. Meanwhile, he is not such a good teacher. Okay, so she is beautiful. Meanwhile, he is big and strong, maybe. So, next question. What about formality? Well, I'd give this a 5 in formality. It's completely neutral. You can use it absolutely anywhere. Okay? Informal conversation, very formal document. And the origin, well, it comes from meanwhile. Mean, as in average, the midpoint. So the midpoint of a period of time, of a while. Okay, so, meanwhile. One thing's happening and another thing's happening meanwhile. In the meanwhile, in the gap between two different things. And meanwhile, on the other hand. I like this one a lot. Meanwhile, this one I'm not so fond of. So I hope that's helped you a bit. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Meanwhile.